Hey pickleballers, and welcome to another episode of the PickleBros podcast. As always, thank you for your likes, comments, subscriptions, and use code PickleBros at checkout with Carbon for 10% off. But guys, I gotta tell you something. I may be a little infidelitous with Carbon here. Gearbox just came out with a new paddle, and it's supposed to be the absolute hardest hitting paddle that's legal. It matches EVA foam. So Pickle Bros, I will be bringing a new weapon to you here in the coming days. So be excited for that. Tim, I know you and Gearbox go way back, so you'll probably want to borrow that thing off of me. And in true fall fashion, I am under the weather. So my speech may be a little more difficult, but I'm going to have the bros carry the show today. Today's episode is the shake and bake. Something that we love to discuss here. Some of us love to use. And it's going to be an awesome conversation. But first, this weekend was a very special event for me. And I'm going to let Jesse explain it since he was the ultimate mastermind behind it all.
So, Ian has come out with a book. He's a published author. And here, I'll show a screen cap. At the Edge of Paradise, available on Amazon.com and Barnes & Noble. And Ian has been talking about this book for the last year and a half since I met him. And he kept talking about it, and I was sort of skeptical that it would ever come to fruition. And then all of a sudden, there it was. He said it was done, and I ordered a copy, and it physically showed up, and I could touch it with my actual hands, which was pretty cool. So we decided to throw him a surprise book party, and we enlisted his twin brother to help us with this. So we rented out a pickleball facility here in the Springs called Springs Pickleball. It's an 8-court facility. And we told the brother, Zane, can you get Ian there at 6:15 p.m. on Saturday, October 14th? And he said, sure, no problem. He thought it was a great idea. And we didn't tell him, we delegated, okay, like a good manager does. We didn't tell him how to come up with an excuse to get Ian there. We were just like, your job is to get him there. Do it however you want. So Zane, Ian's brother, came up with this convoluted story, cockamamie story, about he works for a car dealership. He works for the Toyota here in Colorado Springs. So he told Ian that there was an all-city car dealership charitable fundraiser tournament at this facility. And the more we thought about this, the more we thought this is a disaster. Nobody's going to be dumb enough to believe this story. First of all, how likely is it that if a car dealership were to have a charitable fundraising tournament, that they would choose pickleball? There's bowling, there's rock climbing, there's golf. There's a million things that they could pick. How likely is it that they would pick the one sport that Ian is obsessed with? And secondly, this tournament was starting at 6:30 p.m. and that doesn't make sense. I mean, we only had the facility closes at 9. What is it, like 1 game to 11, single elimination? It just didn't make any sense. And we thought there's no way he's going to believe this. And well, he did. He fell for it. And it was just a really special event. We actually have, go ahead and play that.
This is
I have not seen this.
He's looking behind him like, is this for me?
He doesn't realize that it's for him.
Yeah. Aw. Look at it.
Signature party.
Yeah, you have no idea. I convinced him.
That's awesome.
And the waterworks turn on.
So yeah, there was some tears, and it was a really special thing. So Ian had a chance to talk about his book. We hope everybody listening will buy a copy and leave a nice comment at Amazon.
Please review it. That's very helpful.
Right, and he signed books and he sold books. There was about maybe 35 people there, and then we all played pickleball, and it was just a really special, wonderful evening.
Awesome. Yeah. Stolp, I know that you had some opinions on my fault.
Oh my gosh. Like, okay, Jesse did a great job laying it out, but we were texting and kind of coordinating behind the scenes. I'm like, if Ian does not realize what's going on, like, the dude's an idiot. Like, like, think about this. So all the things Jesse just said, not to mention the time, what the unnamed charity, no questions were asked about that. The dude, Ian, calls in to Springs Pickleball and is like, hey, like, tell me more. There's no social media promotion about it. There's nothing online. He's like calling, and I don't know if this interaction was they were in on it, or just, again, Ian just was oblivious, because they said, oh, it just says blocked out for a party. And so Ian's like, oh, all dealership thing, party, sure. Like that checks out to me. And so he didn't think about it. And then think, okay, let's start thinking through some more of these details. Like, okay, all these dealerships are allowed to come, but what, they're allowed to bring ringers? Like, your twin brother's allowed to bring a pickleball superstar to participate, to take down this charity tournament? I don't think that's how it works, but okay. And then all the dealerships in the town were in on this. Like, this isn't just a specific Toyota thing. This is exclusive to all the other car dealers are invited to this thing. So I was telling the guys, I was like, dude, there's no way. Like, he's just playing dumb. We haven't heard a word from him leading up to the thing. And so Jesse was laying out these elaborate, like, oh, we're in Denver plans. Tim had him off course by saying he was doing something Saturday night. And we had our buddies do the same thing. So he was really thrown for a loop. But Ian, yeah, you bet I had some freaking thoughts about that. And I couldn't go because I was sick last week. But I was so shocked to hear that you didn't catch on. Oh, not to mention all the cars in the parking lot. Don't you recognize the 16 to 20 people you play with every day? Like,
I'm a simple man, dude. I'm a simple man.
Okay, so all that aside,
he's focused on the tournament. All right.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
he was there to win.
Thank you, Tim.
But I will say, seeing the pictures, hearing the stories, watching the video, I heard your speech, Ian. It really was touching. Like, and you deserve it. You deserve all the love in the world, man. Like, congratulations. It was. I make fun of you, but you're a special dude. We're lucky to have you on the PickleBros, and I hope that night represented that celebration of you well. So thanks for being you, dude.
Awesome. Yeah, second best day of my life for sure after my wedding. It was awesome. So the next party you guys throw for me is gonna have to beat that. So standards have been raised, right? We have to do what's your beef. Tim, I want to start off with you. We haven't heard much from you this morning.
Okay, have you guys seen the show What We Do in the Shadows?
No.
Have you guys seen this? It's a mockumentary about a family of vampires, and they all look like sort of your classic Dracula type vampire, except for one dude. His name is Colin, and this guy looks like an extra in The Office or something, in the show The Office. He's just kind of bald. He's unimpressive. He wears glasses. He wears a polo shirt, and he is what is called an energy vampire. So he comes into the room and he sucks the energy out of the room. That's his bit. And what's funny about this is there are pickleball players like this. And it was about a month ago. Stolp was still recovering from his surgery, so he was out of the picture for a little bit. And I got invited to some high level play, and it was high level, but I just noticed, man, there was no fun in the air at all. And that's odd, because I usually don't complain about those kind of things. Like, I want it, let's keep this serious, this is a big deal. This is competitive. Let's keep the laughter to an absolute minimum, that kind of stuff. And yet when this was over with, I was like, that was so boring and lame and just no characters out there. And it made me really miss Stolp. like we need to get Stolp back in a hurry. and and it's because we had a bunch of energy vampires out there, and I was one of them. I mean, I'll cop to it. I was boring too, and so it just kind of struck me. It's like it is kind of important to get some characters out there, and to get some life on that court, and to get some guys that actually want to have fun on the pickleball court, because it does make a difference, and it can be high level with people like that. But yeah, don't play with a bunch of energy vampires this Halloween.
Oh, well,
Uh,
great time for that very seasonal.
Thank you.
I remember you bringing that up when it happened, and you were like, "I'm never the catalyst for fun, but I can participate in the fun." And you're like, "So if I don't have a Stolp there, then it's just gonna be boring." You're like, "I can't be the guy." So
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny.
that did amuse me. Stolp, what's your
Yeah.
beef, my guy?
Well, I can't not respond to some of these things. You know who my energy, the opposite of that, my favorite player is in the Springs? Mike Lee. That guy
Definitely.
Oh,
is. I mean,
100%.
when we talk about who brings the fun and is competitive and good, nobody comes at me like that guy. He calls me, I think, big boy. He's like, "Come on, big boy," and he'll speed it up to me. He'll speed it up on the bounce. He'll do stupid stuff like what I do to me, and I'm like, "What are you doing, dude? All right, let's
you
go."
like that? You want another
Yeah,
one? Hit it again.
And
Oh
then-
yeah, right here. Oh, that's all you got?
And then you'll beat him or something, and it'll be like, "Yeah, you were in the kitchen." Like, so shout out to Mike Lee. He is the ultimate fun player to play with, and thanks Tim for those kind words. Because yeah, pickleball should bring you joy, and when you're out there, you should actually have fun. So take that as a reminder to everyone out there who may not have as much fun, to have a little bit of fun out there. It's a game. That's why we do all this. All right, my beef. So this is, let's see, how do I have to preface this? Little bit of selfishness because of my schedule. So I play at 5 a.m. 4 or 5 times a week whenever I can. And I have a tight timeline because of my kid's school schedule, and I have to be at different places at different times in the morning. So when we say 5 o'clock play time, to me, you know what that means? 5 o'clock play time. That doesn't mean show up at 5:05, warm up for 15 minutes, and your first 002 is set at 5:20 a.m. So I constantly, I'm warming up before the thing. I'm stretched, ready to go. So the second my foot hits in between the lines, it's 002 go time. I know not everyone operates like that, and not everyone has a schedule that is condensed to where I have to leave by 6:45 every morning. But I want to play, and so there's been a couple of sessions where dudes are rolling in at like 5:07, and it's still warming up, and it's like wiping the sleepy sand from their eyes. It's like no, let's roll at 5 a.m. So whenever playtime is discussed, determined, decided on, whenever that time is, you show up ready to play. And if you're not there ready to play, that's my beef.
Okay, so just to clarify, you're saying zero warm up at 5 a.m. Like you can warm up on your own, on the basketball courts. But the second you hit the pickleball court, that's it. No dinking,
Pretty
no.
much.
002, let's go.
You can like announce it and say, "Hey, can we get a couple dinks in?" And like you get 3 minutes max with me. Like that's
3
fine.
minutes, okay.
Yeah, and then I'll
5:03.
Just
generous, I think.
Yeah, just as long as there's some sort of agreement, like, "Hey, I'm here before 5 a.m. ready to roll, but let me get a few ground strokes in. Let me do a couple serves. Let me do a couple dinks." I'm cool with that if you announce it, but with the intent to move fast to get to the games. Like that's what I don't like, this lollygagging around. Let's get going.
See, but your representation of your beef was disingenuous, because often you are shaming us and belittling us when we're too slow. You're like, "Come on, guys, let's go. Let's play. It's already 5:04."
Yeah, that is a very kind way of putting it. When we have 12 people out there and they're just dinking around and it's 5:0 whatever, I'm like, "Let's get this effing thing going. Like, start it up. Like, start your engines. It's go time." So yeah, I'm that guy.
I love it. Jesse, what's your beef?
Okay, my beef is not with people who just play pickleball for fun and aren't particularly concerned about getting better. My beef is not with them. I get it. There's people like that. They just want to have fun. They don't drill. That's fine. I have no problem with that. But there are people like us who are absolutely obsessed with getting better, right? And my beef is with people like that who want to get better but do not take the necessary steps to get better. And I think all of us fall into that category to some extent, but in my own defense, like whatever weaknesses there are in my game, and there are many, I do work very, very hard to rectify them. I've been working on this two-handed backhand for the last, month, and prior to that I was working on different grip. I was trying to get it fixed. So much I've been working so hard on it that my body is actually beginning to fall apart. So say what you will about me, but I do put effort into my game. So I'm gonna use Ian as an example, but I think this applies to a lot of people. Ian, when you are at the net, you've said your game is a 5-0, and I actually disagree, because I think your game at the net is a 5-5. Your game at the net has gotten so good. Your athleticism is the best in our group. Your earnies are terrifying. Your backhand, whatever you call it, volley shot, whatever it is amazing. Your counters, your dinking is so good. You make us move around. Really, really solid game. But as you have acknowledged, and as we discussed in our last live stream commentary, your returns and your thirds are subpar. They're no better than 4-0. And you know this, and you've known it for some time. But when was the last time that you took a lesson to work on your thirds or your returns? When was the last time you went out with a ball machine and just hit balls, like third shot drops for an hour?
Do you count? Because it's probably been over a month on the return and 6 months for the drops.
Yeah. So you're not doing what you need to do, and you need to do to get better. The roadmap was provided by Chris Olson, our podcast rival, in that great video he did where he did 15,000 two-handed backhand drives. And not only did he do that, but he took a lesson with a very high-level pro. And you could see by the end how much better his third shot drive, two-handed backhand drive got. And it's like, I would kill for your skill set, Ian. But if I were you, I would go take some lessons with Greg Williams or another top level teacher, pro, and I would do 15,000 two-handed backhands, 15,000 forehand drives, 15,000 backhand drops, and 15,000 forehand drops. And then you would be a 5-0 plus player by the end of that. And it would take you like a couple months to do. So if you've got a weakness in your game, listeners, and you want to get better, you're serious about getting better, go take some lessons and go drill. It's that simple. That's my beef. People who do not do that.
Tim, what did we talk about getting personal with beefs there? We have to go into the excuse jar and pull something out. Very nice. No, but that is really good stuff, Jesse.
He really hit 15,000 backhands?
Yeah.
And it only took him, I think, 3 weeks. He did it twice a day. And man, he got really good at it.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
People used to joke about him. The joke was 3-5 at best. And now he's playing 4-5 and he's like meddling.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, it is impressive, but that was an experiment. I don't know how. I mean, he did that one time. I don't think that's his drilling regiment. I could not keep that pace with life and my daughter's sports schedules and everything. So,
then spread it out over a longer period. Maybe do 10,000, not 15,000. Maybe it takes you 6 weeks, not 3 weeks. But don't use that as an excuse to not drill at all.
No, yeah, your point is very well taken.
And I think, Jesse, you can hear, listeners can hear, viewers can hear, the level of dedication Jesse has to getting better. And, Jesse, you wish you had whatever percent of Ian's athletic ability. We all could, if we had 0.1% of your dedication and drive to getting better, we would all be 5-0s. You are a type of person that it's not normal in a good way to have your drive and dedication. And so I just want to commend you for that because that is something you cannot teach. You cannot teach hustle. I've seen it in baseball all my whole life. Like the most talented kids in the world fail, but yet people below them excel. Why? Because they put in the work. Not everyone's willing to put in the work. That is a characteristic trait that makes who you are. And gosh darn it, that's so special. I want you to recognize that, and that's awesome.
Well,
and
thank you.
that beef is definitely true. I hope I take away from that. I do not drill near enough. But we can all get better, and it's with that type of drive, mentality, and dedication to this sport that we love. So good comments.
Absolutely. 9 out of 10 of my drill sessions have been with that guy. So
The sensei.
yeah, the sensei himself. So my voice is starting to hurt, so I'll keep my beef short and sweet. And my beef is that the most watched pickleball matches of all time have been involving tennis players. Jack Sock and Annalie Waters, when he made his pickleball debut, Andre Agassi and those 3 other old timer tennis guys did this awesome stadium where they dropped the light on the like the stadium lighting, and that had so many views. So my beef is that the tennis players are invading. See, I'm staying on tennis. I've got a vendetta going. Is that it's pickleball, and the most watched stuff is pickleball with tennis players, and that just annoys me.
I think you're reading this the wrong way, though, Ian.
Oh yeah.
We should be excited about this because what that represents is tennis players coming over to pickleball. That's why people are excited about it. They're converting just like I did, just like Scott did, just like Louis did. Bryce is.
Jack Sock just retired from tennis and is now signed with Selkirk going full time. I think he's going to pass Ben Johns, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, that's why it's fascinating to me, though, is these guys are seeing the light. It's a feel-good story.
Yeah, I think I see it in a different tune too. What's the PR comment? Any publicity is good. Is good publicity. If you're using tennis to excel the sport of pickleball, thank you very much. We'll take it. And I would also say it's not just tennis. It's these all the major sports you see. I've watched videos, clips of Tim Tebow hitting volleys in the kitchen illegally, and then I've seen Drew Brees out there. I've seen these Dirk Nowitzki monster wingspans out there. Kevin Durant, LeBron James has bought a team or whatever as a part owner. It's not exclusive to tennis. I see what you're saying, but I think that's actually good for the sport because it's just going to draw people over here, and it's actually shaming tennis players. Like, look, your sport sucks. Come over to ours because that's what everyone's doing, and it's the new cool thing. So I think it's actually really good.
I hear you. Can you imagine being 6'10" with Kevin Durant's wingspan of 7'3", I think? He's just gonna hold his paddle and touch the net. Like, it's gotta be insane.
What is the optimal height for a pickleball player? Is it taller is always better?
7'4".
7'4". Actually, I do have an opinion on this. I think that once you pass about 6'5", you start to diminish because the net is so much lower. You're kind of swinging at your thigh level for most of the balls. Like our buddy Jeff Konevsky is on the shorter side. He's 5'4", 5'5", and one of the reasons I find him so dangerous is when he's taking like kitchen volleys, he's kind of swinging them at like bicep height. Right? Like he can get full swings at them. They're like, and really hit down on them. Now that also hurts him with court coverage and lobs, right? So like it's a give and take. So I do think there's a diminishing return once you get tall enough. And I've arbitrarily dictated that number in my own mind to 6'5", just having played with a couple tall dudes.
I think the sport evolves as the players do, and so if you are 6'7" and above with extreme basketball players are the most athletic people in the world, and
Yes.
once you get them to figure out the mechanics of the game, like if they are true 4.5s and above and understand, they are going to be able to evolve this sport to places that we don't even comprehend right now. Imagine them straddling the corner of the kitchen on the left side with their arm reaching all the way to the middle of the court. Like you're taking away a full side of the court with the understanding of how to play this game. And imagine dink volleys, like where they're straddling from an Ernie and they're just living there. I don't know. I think the evolution of this game is going to change as the athletes start to come in, different athletes progress into this sport. And I think those diminishing returns don't exist. I think it's going to change the game.
I love it. I love it. All right, guys, let's get into the topic. The shake and bake. That's a bit of a funky term. So, Tim, I want to pass it over to you real quick, and please explain what a shake and bake is.
Okay, a shake and bake has to do with the third shot. It starts with the third shot, and that is typically a drive. And the point of it is to get the opponents off balance with your drive and have your partner run up there and clean up whatever's left. So you drive it at them very hard or very low. They pop it up or they block it without very much force on their shot. Your partner is there smelling blood and he puts it away. That is a shake and bake.
Excellent, excellent. And who of our group uses that shake and bake? I know Tim and I are fiends of using it, especially when together. Jesse, do you use it that much? I don't think you do.
No, I think I tried it in a rec game once with Banu, and he kept hitting his thirds into the net, so we kind of abandoned it after 5 minutes.
Yeah, still, I know you're still coming back and still getting your legs under you, even though
False. I'm back.
You're back 100%.
100%.
Okay, well,
yeah, but
I saw you dinking yesterday. I don't know if that's true.
Dude, I beat you twice and we won once. What's this slandering of my name with you by my side? That's horrible. You bet your bottom dollar I frickin' shake and bake. Are you out of your mind? But the thing is, I look for every opportunity to do it. Regardless of the name, shake and bake, or if there's ever a ball above my belly button, I'm attacking that thing with relentless pursuit of just blood in the water. I'm coming at you no matter what. But the truth to the matter is, at 4 or 5 plus, you just don't see it that often. I feel like, well, maybe because everyone knows my poaching and all that, and so they purposely will do anything to get away from it. But I feel like we don't see that many pop-ups that often to where I can poach as much anymore. But yeah, God, yeah, I do shake and bake.
You're often the baker, right? You're not really the guy who shakes it, I would think.
No, I call it a shake and take, bud. I don't bake. I'm just, you shake it up, I'm going to take it up, because that's what I'm looking for.
Oh my gosh, so funny. Tim, when you're running the shake and bake, where do you drive it or where do you drop it? Talk about kind of your thoughts on how you approach it.
So you and I have gotten actually very technical and precise about this process, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure, shortly. But if you're just freewheeling out there, freestyling, and it's your third shot, I happen to drive a lot of third shots, and hopefully whoever I'm playing with realizes that I'm probably going to drive that thing, and they're already halfway up to the kitchen line to try to clean up whatever's left off my drive. But there's a debate as to whether or not a drive in general is more effective if it's low or hard. And I kind of don't have a strong opinion about that. But I just try to hit a good drive. A good drive is ideally it's both. It's low and hard. And if you can do that where the guy at the net has to worry about the pace that the ball is coming at them with and the height over the net, and hopefully it's dipping, it's got some walk to it, and we've talked about the walk before, then that ball is going to pop up a little bit off their paddle, and my partner's going to be there to smash it. So it just needs to be a good drive. However you define that, it needs to be a good drive. I think if a drive goes in, it's automatically a little bit low, I think, for some people. Unless you're like a Louis who's got more of a loopy drive, But
comes up high, then comes down.
Yep. But a lot of drives are flatter, I would say, and more line drive-ish. So that most drives, if they're hit well, are going to be low and with some pace anyway. So I think just that's my goal. Just hit a good drive, and ideally you want to hit it sort of in the middle of the court, from I'd say the middle of one side over to the middle of the other side. So like that middle, what, like 2/3 or whatever. So
Yeah.
Why the middle? Because it's easier for the baker to come in and poach.
I think it just takes angles away from the volleyer. Um, if you're hitting a really sharp angle cross court or down the line, I think it takes it away from the middle of the court for your partner as they're poaching. I think in general the poacher wants to be sort of in the middle of the court and take that whole area. So you're trying to drive it so that the volley response will go into their area where they are.
Yeah. As the other shaker in this group, I think of it very differently than you do, Tim. When I'm shaking for you and you're crashing, you're baking, or as Stoltz says, taking, I'm not particularly worried about where I place it in relation to my opponents. I'm purely focused on you. And I know that your finishes are a little bit better on your forehand side than your backhand side. Although the backhand, like, you're about even, but I would think you're just a little bit better at finishing power on your forehand side. And so, depending on the side of the court I'm on, I will try and drop that ball just to the tee on your side of the court, whether that's the right or left, because I know from there they're probably not going to go behind you. But that still gives you plenty of time in the middle to run around if you're going from right to left, or especially from left to right, hitting your forehand straight down the middle. So I'm thinking about, where does Tim need the ball? And that also comes in with my proclivity to lean towards the beta. Even when I'm dinking and I'm doing these things, I'm thinking about where your strong points are and trying to get the ball funneled into that direction. So I definitely pick my locations based on your approach, where you are, and which side of the court you're on. But I've actually found that driving it as hard as you can is less effective than hitting like a 60 to 70% pace top spin drive. Like, almost, we use the walk as reference all the time. Take a walk, amp it up just a little bit. And those are the ones that you just feast on, dude, because they're slow enough that you are able to crash in behind it and scan everything, but it's fast enough that it's still challenging for them. And also, when you take that pace off of it, you have more dwell time on your paddle. And if you really rip through that on the top spin, whether it's the two-handed backhand or the forehand, that thing comes down and dies, so they can't hit it flat through the net, right? It's like right into the tape. They have to put some upward trajectory on it. And unless they absolutely capitulate to a soft dink angle, you're right there. And it's just like, I don't ever have to come off the baseline. I just watch you do your thing up there. And it's utterly fantastic.
And can you define walk for those unfamiliar with the
How
term?
would you define a walk, Tim? We've tried to do this before.
So a walk is I've heard it
WOK is
yes,
the walk.
Yes, because it is an ode to our buddy Jeff Ma, who is Chinese. So it's also similar to, I've heard it described as a drip, a drive drop, a drip. So it's like a line drive, medium paced hit shot that is dipping by the time it crosses the net into the opponent's kitchen area. So they have to actually get low and hit up on that. And unless they have fantastic, amazing soft hands, that ball is going to be right there in the strike zone for a finisher.
Yep.
So,
It's characterized by that it's flat and then has that sharp descent right at the end. Kind of when it gets to that kitchen zone, just dies and just goes straight down.
Yep. And it's a very difficult shot to hit. And going back to Jesse's beef, that's one that we can all get better hitting, because it's worth it. It's really I don't care how good your third shot drop is or your third shot drive is. If you can develop that shot, I mean, sky's the limit for how much you can do out there. That it is so deadly effective.
And a lot of people will just try to use kinetic force and overpower when they're driving. And that's not often the best approach. Some guys, like maybe they're a little bit lower level, or they're playing a guy they know is better than them, and they're just like, I gotta crunch this thing as hard as I can, put it through their body, blast it through, make a passing shot, even when they're established, like hit it that hard. And often that I've discovered as I've evolved this part of my game, that's not nearly as effective as just taking some juice off of it, letting your paddle skill, letting your paddle action really create that scenario for your baker. Stolp,
Yeah.
as probably I would say, well, you and Timmy are in the running for best baker, but I do think you're certainly the most imposing, and you'll cross the whole court to get your bake. Doesn't matter. Like you're like, if you're up there, you're gonna go take it. How do you approach? Like, what's your thought process as the shaker's hitting their shot? What are you thinking, and how are you approaching?
That's so funny. I was listening to all of you talk, and you're very cognitive, orchestrated chess players out there. And that's what I think. As you get in the higher levels, you have to be that. You have to think about where your opponent's weaknesses are, how to expose them, how to get the shots that you want, so that you can perform things like a shake and bake. Whereas I think of myself as a reactive player, and using some of those fast twitch muscles and intuition, and getting to spots before they happen, just based off of my reaction time. And so for me, when I think about a shake and bake and taking and poaching and doing all these things, that's in my DNA to want to do that. I don't actually, I don't think about it as much as you guys, because I'm just so naturally aggressive. And maybe this is, where my game needs to improve.
Who's the idiot now?
No, I'm definitely. I always come on here and say I'm the blockhead alpha. Like I'm the dope who's just wants to. I want to hit it as hard as I can. And he's got a good fastball, but he ain't seen my fastball. Like that. I'm that guy. But it's not necessarily the best strategy as you start moving up. But I'm not thinking about, we need to shake and bake here. Only in one scenario. And you talked about drives and drips and all this. I think a good communication point is when you're playing against a lefty and they're not stacking, and typically they'll stack on offense all the time. But if there's a situation where the backhands are in the middle, so the righty's on the right, the lefty's on the left, and then there's a good opportunity for a solid drive drop in the middle, where you can use their backhand or expose their backhand to elicit a pop-up, and then you attack. That'd be a communication point I'd do to one of you smarter players to be like, hey, their backhands are exposed in the middle. Let's go after the lefty or whatever. But other than that, I'm just reacting, man. I'm just playing the game that I like and using the intuition I have with the game.
Excellent.
So I have a question mainly for Ian and Tim. Ian, this was about maybe 6 months ago. You were driving. I was running up trying to do shake and bake. I was trying to be the baker, and you told me, "Hey, you're cutting me off. Stop that." And Tim, when I played with you, you said, "When I drive, stay back." So I'm not butthurt or anything, but clearly you guys have something in mind about my game that makes me not be a good baker. So what are the qualities you look for when you're looking for a high quality baker?
I got a quick answer, and I know what you're referencing because you're not the only person who has heard those words from me. And it's with guys who like Mike McGregor, the pro at Lifetime, is so fast at getting up. He actually doesn't look backwards to see what you're doing. He just, like Stolp, he gets up there and relies on his skill and his speed and his reaction time. So he's not doing any evaluation other than going to assume I'm going to hit a good third or a good drive or a good drop on my third. And what I found when he and I were playing a little bit together in some rec games in the morning, when I was on the left side, I have my best drop, and we've already discussed my drops aren't great, but my best drop is going from an inside out forehand, left corner towards my right side of the kitchen or our opponent's left side of the kitchen, left side player's backhand. And I've hit people before, including Mike, because as I'm hitting that shot, and I'm pretty good at threading it pretty tight, they'll get to the kitchen so fast that they'll like literally cut off that lane that I'm trying to shoot through, and I'll hit them in their back. Or I know that they're gonna cut me off, and so I have to try and make some weird adjustments, and I hit it too low, or I hit it out, or I hit it high. And so when I'm baking, I am thinking I'm following in the wake of the ball. So when I step a little bit out to the side when Tim's shaking for me, and I watch it. As soon as he hits it, I try and get in behind the ball and follow that to the kitchen line, so that not only can I see what his ball is doing, I can also see my opponent's, and I'm not impeding him in any way. So that's what that particular comment is in reference to. And I have a lot of trouble with people who just get up there, hell water and high fury, instead of being very cognizant and traveling in the wake of my ball. But I'm curious, Tim, how you respond to that.
No, I totally agree. I do not think that, now, as good as Mike McGregor is, he's freaking awesome. He's cutting you off. He's limiting your options with where to go with that ball, because he's literally in the way. So you do have to approach with the correct timing, I think. And that comes with time and experience, just playing with your partner. And, the shake and bake thing it takes a lot of orchestration and communication, I dare say. So you do have to talk to your partner and figure out the correct timing of this whole thing if it's going to be effective. Because that right there, what you're describing, it's like, okay, so he's cut off half the court that you can use for your shot, or you're going to hit him. But so that just makes it a little bit simpler for your opponents. Like, well, he's not going to go where Mike is or where whoever is. He's going to go to the guy on the right side. So, I mean, if they can cut down your options in that regard, then that's a benefit to them. That's going to help them out. But Jesse, I'm trying to think what I may have been talking about when I was telling you to stay back off my drive. I guess it just.
I know. I actually know what it is, because I've had this thought with you, Tim, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think I know. It's when you're shaking for me, you hit it so fast and so low that if I'm even a little bit out of position, and even if you're a little high, they block it back so hard. Your drives generally don't have that dropping action. They're just so fast, so low all the time. You're always keeping within 6 inches of the net. That's why people have trouble with it. But if they can block it back linearly, it is a freaking hard ball to deal with. And so when I see you're really about to rip a third drive, I actually slow down so that my timing is different than when say Jesse's driving it or I'm driving it, right? Because nobody hits it as fast as you do. So that rebound, that counter punch, that block is just using your energy and sending it back. And so Jesse, there was a time where you're like, I just got to get up to the kitchen. You're getting there, hurting yourself based on the pace that Tim is sending that ball.
Yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense that he wouldn't be up. He might be in the middle of the back area of the court and not in a position to really inflict much damage at that point. So,
or even if you get up there, you're trying to take a half volley at your waist or at your knees. Like,
yeah.
That's a tough shot to be at from there.
This is so interesting, because then I started putting in my mind, I'm the biggest target out of all of us in terms of getting in the way, and I don't feel like I'm ever in the way with you shakers, and it's because of footwork and timing. I think that is such a critical component to this. And I was thinking of my footwork. I take 3 very intentional, larger, moderately paced steps to get up to the kitchen. That's the advantage I have as a tall person, because then I can wait back as the third is delivered, drive or drop, and with 3 very methodical steps. It's actually 3. It's 3 big steps and a chop step. It's 3.5 steps, and I'm playing this in my mind, and I'm in the position, whether it's at the kitchen, slightly behind the kitchen, to make a play to a poach as that fourth is delivered. So that's it's footwork and timing that comes with playing with each other. I think there's a lot of trust from our group and understanding of these things, because I can't do what McGregor does and not look at the ball. I have to actually play off of what that current shot is doing so that I can adjust to the next one. But what it is off ball footwork and timing, and that comes with playing with your partner.
And you know, you already made fun of yourself for not being cognitive about it, but you really are just naturally good at timing your approach, reading where the ball's going to go, how to play it. Now, your only downside is sometimes you're just overly aggressive and you're just like, no matter what kind of fourth shot they hit, I'm going to be aggressive. And, you know, maybe that does need to be dialed back. But yeah, you just automatically know because you're athletic and you've been doing sports your whole life. That timing is really, really important. So, Tim, we didn't get your thoughts on the baking. So we got Stolp and mine on how the baker should approach, but I don't really know what you're thinking when I'm shaking for you.
So we've kind of evolved on our approach to this whole thing. At the beginning, we had a very orchestrated, play call oriented type approach to shaking and baking, and then we've kind of evolved to let's let the baker get a feel for what's going on up there when he gets up there and feel the situation out and be able to react to what's going on with the volleyer. And so when I get up there as the baker, I want to be right in front of the guy that's volleying. So I have to get up there quick. I have to be able to read where that volley might be going, whether it's to my forehand or my backhand. So I do want to be in the middle of the court there. I want to be in the middle of the kitchen line, so that I can jump and pounce as early as I possibly can off of that ball. And so that's what I'm trying to do. Now, it's very demanding on the driver, on the shaker, because that ball, if it's not a great drive, then I'm kind of a sitting duck, like especially if I'm right in front of them. Now, I have fast hands, so I can survive up there a lot of the time, but it really is still demanding. If you're trying to get the upper hand in that exchange, a lot is dependent on with that drive, which is kind of why we stopped doing it so regularly, because it just wasn't always practical to hit that good of a drive every single time for your third. So we introduced a lot of freedom for that third ball hitter. Like, you don't have to drive every single time. If it's not there, it won't always make sense to hit a drive. But I think in general, you and I, whichever one is baking, we're still running up there as fast as we can. Not too fast, as we said, but when it is time to go, you go.
Yeah.
And whether it's off of a drop or a drive, we do try to implement that, I think, pretty much every time we hit a third now. And a big part of that, why you and I are so good at it, I think, is because we can finish with our forehand or our backhand. And not everybody can do that. That's one of those skills, again, that Jesse was alluding to, I think. Not everybody has the finishing ability with their backhand. A lot of people do on their forehand, but not their backhand. And you become so much more versatile if you can finish with either hand. So that's why it works so well with you and me.
Go ahead, Jess.
Yeah, so I just want to say a couple things. First of all, when this strategy is deployed by two people who are really good at it, and I mean like strong 4-5 and up, it's devastating. It's extremely difficult to deal with, for me anyway. I mean, I'm not great at handling pace in the first place, but when you've got like Tim up in your grill as you're trying to take this fourth shot, it's terrifying. And a game can end in minutes because these are very short rallies, and it's like a blitzkrieg. It's like by the time you even realize what's happening, the game is over. Having said that, I think this is a strategy that you tend to see, like I said, at strong 4-5 and up. You're not gonna. I never saw it at 4-0 or 3-5 because it's hard to hit a good drive, and you need actually two players that can hit good drives, because if only one of them is good at hitting good drives, well, then you can just hit it to the other guy. And if one of them is a dangerous poacher, well, you hit it to him. You keep the poacher back. So when we used to play Jason Moeller, I would hit to him because I knew he was an excellent poacher, and that would keep him back. So you need, there's just a certain skill set that's required that's pretty high level. You need to be able to hit really good drives. It helps if you can hit them with your forehand and your backhand. And then you need to be able to hit those poaches with your forehand and your backhand. But if the listener is in the 4-5 range, you will see this strategy, and you're going to want to learn to get used to it.
I love that you bring up the skill sets thing, because I think it really is, the shake and bake is more of an advanced play. And it's not cognitively difficult to understand this, right? Okay, the guy who takes the third rips it at the opponents, and the other guy charges the net and tries to attack their fourth shot. But you do have to have everything, because you have to have a drive that's challenging, but not too high that they're just going to put it away. You have to be fast enough to get up there, and also have fast hands to handle the volley counter. But also, if they decide to capitulate and go slow, you have to have the lateral movement to probably cover your driver. Let's say that Tim is on the left, and he drives for me, and I'm coming up the right, and I'm up in their grill. They don't want to mess with my backhand, so they're just like, we'll capitulate the kitchen. And they hit a nice, soft, angled shot, kind of cross-court block dink thing. Tim's all the way on the baseline. You also have to be able to cover for him, take that 7-8 feet, and then get a lift dink, and either switch based on what his call out is, or then get back in place as he fills in the void that you've now created. So you have to have fast hands, you have to have soft hands, you have to have good recognition, you have to have a good third drive. It's like, if you don't have all the tools, all the skills in your bag, at least at a high level, you can't pull it off, because you're going to find some way to get exposed, because a lot of stuff is going on all at once here.
I think it's interesting, because I'll take the counter to that position of, I think I saw it coming up as a 3-5 to 4-5 way more than I do now. And it was probably not by design, but more by just dumb luck and me. And it's just I'm looking for the poach at all times, so I'd get more pop-ups at 3-5 to 4-5. There's a lot more banging going on in general, so there's a lot, on the third shot, no matter where it is, you're seeing it more. And the thirds are in general not as good as they are now. I think so much depends on the third shot, and Tim will attack an attackable third. But now at the 4-5 plus level, I feel like it is the majority of folks that have decent third shots that don't allow you to put a good drive on the ball. Therefore, you don't get the opportunity to shake and bake. So I feel like I see it less because of the quality of play on the thirds. And then, yes, you need all those other skills and to make this thing work. But I would argue that I saw it more at the lower levels and now less at the higher levels, because you need way more things to work in your favor. You just don't see that often.
Are you talking about just seeing it implemented, or seeing it successful?
Seeing it successful. I don't think it was like an implementable strategy at the lower levels. I think it just happens. You're like, oh, shake and bake. You know what I mean?
Let me give you a scenario. I am defending, like, let's say anyone pick any random guy who's got Ryan Spradlin, great drive. If he's driving it at me, and I've got Jared, Tim, or Stolp crashing as the baker on me, I'm not going to just try and punch that through them. I'm just going to capitulate, and I'm going to drop it or cross-court dink it. So a lot of times you don't think it's successful is because the threat is so real that you just end up getting to the net. And it's actually a good strategy to use if guys are scared of what kinetic energy you can bring. It's almost like an auto up, right? Now the guy who's hitting the third has to get on his wheels, because it can be challenging to take that cross-court block, especially if it's a little bit softer. But I would say that's why it's not successful at our level, because we have several guys who are quite potent at finishing fourth shots with their fifths. So it's implemented a lot.
So as someone who's been subjected to the shake and bake, I want to just talk about what I see and how I try to deal with it. So typically, the person that's driving is back, and so there's this tendency to hit the ball to that person. So like I'm standing here up at the net and Ian is way back and that ball comes to me, I'm going to hit it usually to that open space, to the player that's deep. But see, that's what Tim expects. So he's coming over waiting for me to do exactly that. And it's not like I'm popping it up either. Like, it's like popping it up 6 inches. It's not like I'm like, ooh, 8 feet in the air. It's like a pretty decent kind of like a normal block shot. But Tim is expecting it, so he comes swooping in and kills it. So the correct shot is very counterintuitive, as that defending player, like you say, Ian, you want to go the other direction. You want to go actually cross court to where Tim is. And he's probably not expecting it. And it just, you better get the hang of that real quick, because if you do what comes naturally, you're going to get killed.
But then that invites the chess match. So
The cowboy.
Tim, in a second I want you to elaborate. We're running close on time, but I do want to talk about it. If I'm driving you, Jesse, and Tim is opposite you, right? Like the lane is open between you and me. I'm driving at you. Then you want to hit it back to me. But then when you do that, he predicts it. He crosses it off. So that time it works. Next time I drive at you, you go behind him, and it works. So from there, you've taken both options. Each of you it's 1-to-1 on success. That third drive, do you play it down the middle, or do you play it behind him? And what ends up happening is this weird, I love the goats on a bridge, this standoff. You don't know where you're going to, can I rock, paper, scissors you? Are you going to go behind me this time, or are you going to play it honestly and true? And so if you play it behind me and you win, it's a winner. If you play it down the line and I stay true, I'm just probably going to drop it or drive it again. And so you get this really funky chess match where
it's all happening so fast.
It's all happening so that's why I think that the skill set, you have to have everything. Because fast hands isn't actually fast hands. We all can shake our arms and shake our paddles fast. It's processing speed and being able to do stuff with it is that's the fast hands.
Yeah,
that's a great point.
Yeah, it is.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, as the baker, I have, let's call it 75% of, like, that's my take range is what I'm going to do. You know what good players do, Jesse, as you playing out that scenario? They will thread the needle in that 25% to hit it in the backcourt, away, just far enough for me to not go after it. And so that was the remedy. So as I've been a heavy poacher through my everyday life here, people, as you move up, are so good at threading the needle away from that 25% that I can't reach. And it's just, it actually boggles my mind in this GOAT chess match that people have the ability to handle a drive and do that to keep away from my poach. And it just sets up the point so well.
Unless the drive is so good and they don't do it.
Right.
Tim, talk about Cowboys and Indians. You and I ran an experiment for a couple weeks with Shake and Bake that we dubbed Cowboys and Indians. Can you try to elaborate on that? I'll fill in the gaps of where we need to.
And it was largely successful. I think every time we tried it, we
did not lose a game.
I don't know if we ever lost a game. It just didn't feel that clean.
So ugly.
It didn't feel clean, but that was kind of the point of the whole thing, is that how many points do you really win on your serve anyway? Like, maybe if you're really good, half or 40%. I don't know what the number is, but it didn't feel clean, and yet we kept winning. So it originated after a tournament that Louie and I played in, and we lost in the finals to Jason and Matt. And afterwards, we started sharing some ideas about, how we could get better. But I realized that my natural partner in something like this was somebody like Ian, who has a forehand drive and a backhand drive, a forehand finish and a backhand finish. Like, that's what you need. We just talked about that. So we talked about doing it as almost a play call situation, and how we talked about it a lot. And what we figured out was the server would call, and we called it Cowboys or Indians. The Cowboy, well, I'll talk about Indians first. Indians is, it doesn't matter who handles that third shot drive. It's going to be a drive. It's going to be cross court in front of the guy that is baking. Okay, so it's going to be to the volleyer who's cross court from him.
It was always cross court.
It was always
Never
cross
done.
court, right in the middle of that guy's kitchen area, right? And the baker would be crashing on that. And so if the call was Indian, and again, the server would make this call. If the call was Indian, the baker would always poach right in front of that guy. Okay? And the server's job would be to cover his backside if it went behind him. If the volley went behind him, if the guy got smart and redirected it behind the poacher, which Jesse was just talking about as a smart thing to do, right? If the call was Cowboy, that baker would stay. He would stay right there and keep that volleyer honest in case he tried to go behind him like every single time. He can't do that if we're throwing in the Cowboy play call. And it was, and then in every case, the third shot driver would have to cover whatever the empty space was that the poacher was leaving vacant. So he'd have to go behind him in some cases on the Indian play call. And that's what we kept on running into issues with, is the driver, for some reason, would keep forgetting to do that. I'm not sure why. You can't do this. Like, I don't know how many times Ian and I were able to actually practice this.
We were like 4-0 with it. We only did like 4 or 5 games.
Right. You
like
need
that.
more than that. And let's be honest, you need more time doing this because it is so choreographed. But that is the idea with Cowboys and Indians. And I think, I'd like to hear your thoughts as to why we don't do it anymore. And like I said earlier, it's kind of evolved to, let's give the poacher some more freedom up there to read the situation so that he doesn't have a set instruction for what to do, whether it's to poach or to stay. Let's let him feel that situation out. But I do kind of miss the play calling aspect of it because it was so cool and inventive. But I'd like to hear your thoughts as to why we stopped doing that as much as we were.
Yeah, it was a ton of fun. Indian meant that we were going to cross and switch on the poach no matter what. Cowboy was just going to stay on your side. And that did create a lot of interesting scenarios for our opponents because they didn't know what we were calling. And it took our decision making out of it. I actually didn't struggle as much with the covering on Indian as you did. No, I definitely forgot several times. But where I found I had the most struggle, and particularly in what I felt I was locking you into doing. So if I called Cowboy or Indian, I was telling you how you had to play. And what I realized was, if I got to and I think our agree with me or not, our most successful shake and bake is when I'm shaking and you're baking. Now I've definitely had some really clean putaways, but the way I can hit that arc on my third, it's a little bit more walky than what you do, and you're finishing at the net is just ridiculous. And so what I found was when I was hitting my thirds, you would be forced into a decision. It's like, no, I want you to read, to process, to see what's going on, and you make the decision. And then I can play off. So you could Cowboy or Indian, stay or go no matter what. I felt it was actually too limiting based on your skill set. You didn't need a governor. You needed the shackles removed and just to play what you saw. And so once I kind of realized, I was like, why are we putting this limiter on Tim or me? We can both just read the game. So let's just read the game. And once we made that switch where we abandoned it, it's much more effective. But a lot of the principles that we learned while doing it, where if that guy switches, you have to cover behind him, right? Or if we get locked in an I formation, how do you play from there? So there was a lot of good that came out of it. But with your ability to adapt and, fast hands is really your ability to process the game in front of you. Why am I going to say don't cross the court? I think actually the moment, now as I'm verbalizing it, excuse me, the moment for me was, so sorry, when we called Cowboy and you're supposed to stay. And then you ended up switching anyway and put it away. And I was like, why take away that opportunity? Just audible, yeah. Let your freak flag fly. So anyway, that was kind of how that whole development went.
Well, it's kind of what Stolp was just talking about, how he doesn't like to think through these things too much. He wants to let his instincts take over. I mean, that is what is so fun about pickleball is sort of the art of it and being able to process things in real time and thinking through it. However you do that, whether it's intuition or if you have more of a plan going on in your head, but I don't like taking that away. Like, I love that part of the game. I love options. I want to trust myself with those options. And I want to trust my partner with those options. Let him do that thing too. So I think that's what was unsatisfying about the Cowboys and Indians experiment, is that it was just too structured. It's like,
Yeah.
Let me flap my wings and fly a little bit,
Yeah, I'm not to rain on your parade, but that was like nails on a chalkboard for me because it's too structured. In my mind right there, if you've ever seen the Simpsons episode.
Too much thinking, guys.
Right. No, in my mind when you guys were just talking, I was like cross-eyed, and Homer Simpson was in a cheerleading costume going do 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 hey do do do. That's what's in my brain when that stuff was going on, because I'm like, dude, you're telling me I have to do this when that happens and that when this happens, and I have to orchestrate the point before we even see what happens. Like, oh my gosh, I would not thrive in that environment. But everybody's a little bit different, and if you guys saw success from it, great. But Tim, I would argue, like, your audible that you got so much satisfaction from and put away a ball, like, that's the style of play that works for you. I would rely more on that, but that's just me.
Well, Stolp, you have trouble remembering the score
False.
every single rally.
Dude, I'm going to call you out. You forgot the score yesterday. I remembered the score. This is the number 2 time you just slandered my name, and it was you that forgot. You freaking hypocrite.
I got to get my hits in where I can. And I had this thought, unless there's something else, if you guys want to add on to what we're just talking about, I have a slight pivot that I was thinking about. And Jesse, it's like when we talk about what skill sets you need in order to accomplish this, I actually think that you can be a very effective shaker. So when you drive, I think because you don't see yourself as having tons of power, you're not a driver, you default to the, I'm just going to rip it through their hearts. I'm going to hit it as hard as I can, maximum effort. And I'm just wondering, I don't know if I've ever seen you try to hit a walk, like, right, you either drop it or you drive it through their spleen. Like, and I can't cognitively think about if you have any middle ground there. And so even though you may not ever be able to be the most effective baker, I still think that guys like you can still play at least half the component. Because if you and Tim are next to each other, both of you can shake it, right? Now Tim will be baking, and you won't be baking off of him, but they'll still send the thirds to him that they have to handle a tough drive. Like, even if you're not doing a traditional shake and bake, people don't like to return to Tim because that third shot is just, it's very demoralizing and difficult to deal with. So I even wonder if there's people kind of in your like kind of category who can still be very effective at setting up your baker just by adjusting how you hit your third. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think, like you mentioned, a 70% speed, dipping third, and I think that's something I could develop. It's a very drillable shot. Me and Michelle have talked about her being the shaker in mixed. She doesn't have enormous power, but she can hit that shot. So I do think there's potential there.
Awesome. Any final thoughts, you guys? This has been such a good conversation. Really enjoyed it. Bringing all of the high-level, advanced cognitive thinking straight to you guys. I just love these conversations. Like, we're such addicts about pickleball.
I would like to bring up one thing, though, if I could.
Yeah.
I like what Jesse was trying to get to with how do you defend this? How would you defend it, Ian? How would you defend it, Stolp?
On the shake and bake?
Yeah.
So, assuming both guys can shake it, I'm going to put it into the back left corner, left side player's backhand, because most guys can't drive it effectively from there. You and I can. Louis can, but a lot of guys can't. So that's one way to just kind of eliminate the speed ball. Now maybe they run around it, right? And they stick on their forehand side, a lot like what Monty does, and it's super effective. He gets outside of his squared up so fast that he's there early and he can still hit it well. But then that spreads them and it leaves gaps for you to punch down the middle. And then if the shaker's pulled way off the court, say you write a good return right in the corner, that baker has so much court to cover at that point that's one way I would try to approach it if guys are really just trying to shove it down my throat and kill me with it.
So a good angled return.
A nice angled return to the backhand. Because if it's in the middle of the court or on the back right corner, it's in forehand territory. And almost everyone at our level can hit difficult drives from there. So it has to be in the backhand corner for the left player. And then if they do get off a good third at me, I am totally content to capitulate. And as Jesse mentioned, I'm best up at the net. That's where I'm comfortable. Dinking, counter punching, moving people around, just waiting for you to hit me a pop-up. Because I'm not scared of the speed up as much anymore. I mean, guys can still get me on it, but I'm not. It's not like a weakness. Like I kind of invite that. I almost leave balls high for people to speed up at me because I know I can counter them. So I'm not trying to pass the baker. I'm like, get it in the kitchen, kill the ball, let's go soft.
So as a baker, this is how I defend it. If I'm getting baked on, is exploiting the baker. I'm going to put the ball in attackable mindset for that baker, but far enough for him to make a mistake. And here's why. So if they hit the ball into the net on the bake, or if they hit the ball out on the bake, that demoralizes the baker. If you do not execute a successful shake and bake, your likelihood to try it again is less. And the only way to get the baker to do it less is to demoralize them through failure. And to make them fail is to stretch them out past their comfortability. So if they're taking that 75% of the court and you put it in that 80th percentile and they swing and hit it into the net, their likelihood to try that again is less. So
or they don't hit it as well and they're scrambling and it's chaos.
It's different. Yeah. It's different. So exploit the baker. That's what my strategy is.
Along those same lines, sorry, Jesse, I see you have a thought there, but I would attack the baker. So I think if you're the guy at the net, you can deal with a drop. Like you have plenty of time to look at that drop if that third ball hitter decides to hit a drop. So if your main focus is the drive, then you can see that coming and you should be actually attacking their drive. And I would say hit it right at the baker. Intimidate him, screw up his confidence, make him not want to do that again.
Mm-hmm. Jesse, close us out. Final thought.
A final question, actually. I think this is an important one. I know this is a long episode, but where should the baker aim in a shake and bake? Do you aim at the person in front of you? Do you aim cross court? What do you...
So my quick answer is I don't evaluate where my opponents are. If I'm in that scenario, they disappear to me, and I just aim middle of the court. I punch it as hard as I can, as fast as I can. Doesn't matter where they are, whether there's a gap or I'm going straight through them. You know, it's like don't punch someone, punch through them. Mm-hmm. I just hit that ball as hard as I can right in the middle of the court. And any deviance, variance, or miscalculation I have is that margin of error is so wide that I just have success with it.
I'm angular below the waist. If they're going to get it, it's going to pop right back up, and my partner's going to clean it up. A lot of times, if I aim for the shoelaces, that's going to equal good result.
So you're actually hitting cross court deliberately.
Cross court, forehand down. Mm-hmm. Yep, angular.
Tim?
Yeah, I'm just. I guess I'm more along the lines of what Ian was saying. Just get some power on that ball because it's probably going to work no matter what happens. But I find that a lot of my shots, I don't know if I just like have a knack for finding the holes over there, but they tend to go for clean winners. So I don't know.
And that part ends up just being automatic. You've played hundreds of matches at this point. You intuitively just can feel where to go.
Well, and I think the element of surprise equals winners, right? Shake and bake, the
Yeah.
baking component, no matter where you hit it, and the element of surprise is going to be your winner there.
Well,
Yeah.
like it's not always a surprise though. You know, you get used to it, and I have had bakers hit to me, and I'm able to return it, just as I've had people earning on me, and I'm able to return it. So I do think it's worth thinking about where to put that shot.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, listeners, thank you for joining us for this episode of the PickleBros podcast. We went long, but this is what we love. We are totally passionate about pickleball. Like the video, share the video, comment. Let us know if you're going to implement this strategy. Go buy my book.
Yeah, we'll put a link to the book down below, so please check it out.
Awesome. Yes, that would be wonderful.
I'm loving it, by the way.
Oh, you're reading it? Excellent.
yeah.
I cannot wait to hear your final review. So we love you all. Thank you. Stay safe and stay out of the kitchen.